Hi, it's Jared from TheTouringCamper.com here, and we're working on some Tilly projects. And one of the projects that we found was the doors that we took off, they all had mirrors on them. And because they had mirrors on them, they had holes in multiple places to hold those mirrors on. And in addition to that, many of the veneer on the front of these was in pretty bad shape. So we were trying to figure out a solution for it. So what we decided to do is we took some metal. This is a metal sheeting, and it has a nice cloverleaf pattern to it. And it's a brass in color. And basically what I did was I cut it down, and then I used some pieces to hold those on, and it wasn't big enough, so I had to put a seam in the middle. So this is kind of a finished product. We don't have the hinges and the knobs on yet, but this is what a finished project looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through those steps. I took lots of pictures. Those will be on the website, but I'm also going to walk you through those steps of how I got to this finished product for our 1976 Silver Streak Tilly. Alright, so the first step in the process is getting the sheeting to the right size to be able to fit onto the door. And I've already measured the door, and I know the door is 12 3/8, so I'm actually going to cut it 12 1/4, a little bit smaller, and you'll see why once I get to one of my next steps. So I just basically use a straight edge, and I'm using a pencil, and kind of go all the way across it with my straight edge. And then once I have that done, then I have a set of tin snips here. And I did get new ones for this process because I wanted this to be a nice clean edge. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just following my line, and I'm going along, and I'm just basically trimming right down that line all the way across this. And I will tell you, different types of tin snips are going to cut in different directions. I probably did not actually buy the right ones. These are to be able to cut at an angle or a radius, and they've made this straight cut a little bit harder. So if you don't have a set of tin snips, I would definitely suggest, for this process at least, getting ones that are designed to cut very, very straight. So we'll get this cut, I'll get the other one cut, and then I'll show you the next step. Alright, the next step in the process is I bring the two pieces over here and I overlay them. And I know they're a little too long, so I do have to trim one down. On this particular door, I found something interesting. The bottom of the door is not square. So I'm going to have to trim a little bit off of the bottom of this panel, which is not something I've had to do with the other two doors that I've done to this point. But if I don't trim a little bit off of that, we're going to have all kinds of cattywampus things going on here. So what the plan is here is you bring that top edge down to this middle portion, and I overlap them, and then I mark where I'm going to need to cut on this one, so that way I know how much to take off of the top of the bottom one. So I'm going to just mark all the way across there, and then I'll have to cut that. Interestingly, for this panel here as well, I'm going to need to come down to this end, and I'm going to need to trim off a little bit on that end. So that's the next step. Alright, the next step in the process is how I attach it. So what I got was this is like a C channel, and then this one here can go in between, so it'll hold both sides. And this is actually for holding paneling on a wall, is what it's intentionally used for. And it's probably a little wide for this metal sheeting. But we have found it's working fairly well. So what I then do, the next step in the process, is I go around and I literally have to find all the pieces, cut all the pieces. And what I have found is none of the hinges on any of the doors are in the exact same places, nor are any of the knobs that actually hold it in. So I actually can't just do a standard set of all of them. I'm having to, for each door, do measurements, do cuts, and we'll show you some of those cuts and how I have some of those set up. But that's the next step, is getting ready to attach it all. Don't attach anything, but getting ready to attach it all. Alright, so what I'm finding is using really well for cutting this. This is a PVC plastic, so I'm using a hacksaw, and then I'm using my miter box. So Sweet Pea's going to zoom in here and kind of give you a little shot of me just kind of cutting it. And that right there is how you get nice 45s. Alright, so as you can see, I have all my pieces cut now, and it's all laid out. And then I have a nail gun, and I am using very small little nails. These are actually 18 gauge, 5/8, or 15 millimeters little nails. They're not very big at all, and they get the job done. So basically what I do is I take my nail gun, and I don't have it hooked up yet, so I can show you this. And I take it, and these C-channels, the way they're designed, is this lip here lip here that's going to be against the wood or against the cabinet, I can actually get between the grating here and nail down into that. And then that holds that channel in place, which is then holding this different tin onto these doors. So that's how I've been doing it. It's been working fairly well. If I get a nail that doesn't go in quite all the way, I use a little punch and I hammer it in a little bit. And as we're going, I'll have to make sure I'm getting all of the hinges and the knob in the exact right place so that it all lines up nice and well. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you a little bit of it as I'm going. So that's the next step in the process. Alright, so the next step of the process is getting the hinges to go back on. And in some places we're able to go right past the tin sheeting. But in other places I do have to drill out so that we can get them to go back on. And then once we get those back on and I get the handle over here, we'll go ahead and put one back on the cabinet and we'll show you what it looks like. Alright, so the last step of the process is putting the door back on. And we did find out that they kind of only go on one way, and there's a little bit of fussiness to them, so it takes a little bit of doing, and sometimes we get them right, sometimes we don't, and then I'll have to come back through and adjust certain hinges. But once we get them on there, we'll show you what they look like. Here's the finished product. As you can see, these two cabinets are done. The knobs are on, and if I come into the knobs, Kristen took the original knobs, cleaned them all up, and painted them and did the same thing with the hardware. So that's what it looks like, and they look so great in here. And you can see the fridges here. We are going to do the same thing on the fridge. I have to figure out how I'm going to do it yet, but we're going to put a whiteboard on this and put that same metal on the front of the fridge to try to blend that in. And then we'll go back here to the bathroom. It's a little hard, there's not a lot of light, and it's a little squishy, but let's see what we can see here. So you can kind of see those two doors there. Sorry, I'm getting a shadow. There we go. There's those two doors. And then we did this door over here as well. So all the doors now have that on it to make them look nice. We think it came out real well, so hopefully you enjoyed this post, and hopefully you figured out you have to be creative when you're restoring vintage, and we wanted to use as much of the original as we could, so that's what we did for our 1976 Silver Streak Tilly. Thanks for watching.